Hello and welcome. Today we've got Tarot by Janine, and we will be discussing Trump's rallies, Nisara, currency revaluations, debt forgiveness, and all the latest updates. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Telegram channel and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And I will also leave Tarot by Janine's links below as well, so you could follow her as well. Now, I just wanted to let you all know that I'm banned on YouTube until this Friday, so you have to find me on BitChute. Janine, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm a little sleepy because I'm up early today, but yeah, it's worth it meeting up with you, Nicholas.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. Well, it's an honor to have you on my show. And you know, it's very interesting. We had a very interesting weekend with, the Trump's rally. I had to stay up to almost 3 o'clock in the morning to watch all of it.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that I thought was very interesting was he was reminding the people, of all of the things that Mr. Trump has said, where the mainstream media went crazy. And then the mainstream media turns out that Trump was right. And he was giving a list of things, of the things that he was saying where the mainstream media went crazy that turned out to make Trump right. And then at the end of that, which I really liked, was when he said, they stole the election. Let's see who's going to be right about this. And that's what I loved.
Oh, yeah. He's been dropping all kinds of truth bombs. People have been sending to me like weird codes that he's doing around Mr. B, basically saying, look at how young Mr. B looks. He looks like he was just born, and weird things like that. And it's like pointing out how little sort of the mask sometimes Mr. B wears, because he wears different. It seems like there's different people playing Mr. B. But he's pointing out maybe the mask doesn't have the wrinkles that he should have for a man his age, or he's pointing out possibly that we got a clone in place. We're not sure, but he's definitely pointing out, really saying really weird coded things that only really truthers would know. That's what I noticed. Absolutely.
When we look closer to those ears, it's just a different person. When we look at the character, I mean, Trump reminds us, he says it's not, he's acting different, he's behaving differently, he looks different, he goes, I don't even know if he knows he's alive. And, he said to the audience in the rally, very interestingly, he says, do you think Biden's in control? And he was like, do you know who really is in control? And he turned around and he puts his arms out like this and he doesn't say anything. And everyone starts cheering, and I think that he did that on purpose to give us the answers, but without saying it, to avoid backlash from the mainstream media. Well, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. He's doing the very same thing all the truthers are doing. He's tippy-toeing around things, and he's playing a few games with the mainstream media before they fully take those guys out. Because my vision is, and what I've been getting, is that they've infiltrated a large part of the mainstream, maybe not all of it, but at least half is what I figure. And they're just ready to have it kind of implode on itself with truth. It seems to me it's been flooding out lately. In fact, yesterday, somebody sent me a list of things that came out in the mainstream media that were like incredible. And they were all around what's been going on with the fake illness, we'll call it.
Yeah, the fake illness. I like that one. There's a new one that. But just to let you know that you're open to say whatever you like, because this will be going on BitChute.
Oh, perfect. So okay.
I'm just letting you know to relax. Don't worry.
Okay. The pandemic. Okay. Everything to do with jabs and everything, all that's going on, just things are flooding out. Information. So many people are coming forward. Things are just going to reach a crescendo. I see it. It's happening. If anybody's feeling blue, really just go on Instagram and Telegram, because it's everywhere. Ghost Isa is just pumping it out. Like he was on fire the last, if that's a male, I think it's a male. You never know with just the name, right? So I don't want to offend, but whoever that is, Ghost Isa, they are just pumping it out, just truths after truths. Do you follow that one, Telegram?
I'm on Telegram. I have a Telegram channel of I think 113,000 now. And there's a lot of interesting channels on there that I follow. And, one could be medical, the other one could be about Trump. And it's very interesting, absolutely. So yesterday was Freedom Day. What was the most significant thing of this, of the weekend that you think happened on Freedom or around the Freedom Day or on Freedom Day?
Well, leading up to it, I got all kinds of emails about people getting debt forgiveness, which in a way is a financial freedom. Now, the theme for me and being in Canada and watching, because I wasn't in the States, I'm not in the States, but watching, because I have so much of my audience is from the States. I get a lot of people talking to me from the States through emails and whatever. And it seems to me the biggest chatter was around the financial system, just really shifting over. It seems to me that's going to be the big breaking news here any day. That, and of course, there was some bad news, of course. You probably heard about all the flooding in Japan, the mud flooding, horrible things like that, unfortunately.
Do you think that was a natural disaster, or do you think it may have been orchestrated by the deep state?
Well, I had a look at it on my channel, and what I was getting was that in the background, things were done by the deep state, even a long time ago, with manipulation. And over time, it's created this domino effect of all kinds of bad weather everywhere. So it might have not have been literally they triggered the floods, but they literally triggered whatever eventually triggered floods. So yeah, in a way, yes. Right. It all leads back to things that have been manipulated for a really long time, appearing like global warming. So they've been working on this agenda to make it look like our world is upside down with global warming. And honestly, I believe now, and I used to really buy into that. But the more I look at it and the more I look at it with the cards, the more it becomes apparent that that's all a big setup. There's natural occurring things in nature. There's natural occurring weather changes in nature. But what's been going on is absolutely got the deep state or the dark cult all over it. It's like, it's very suspicious. What's going on with the fires? What's going on, like in California, those fires, people were even photographing strikes that looked like they were coming from outer space. So in other words, directed weapons, like they were photographing them, and things were burning up like cars and metal, and then trees around them weren't as charred. So they're very suspicious that metal would burn. So that the fires were odd and really had hot spots, which is not natural. My father was a forest ranger, and forest fires are natural occurring. Obviously, every year there's various forest fires, but there's been, my dad says, about double the amount, just for starters, where we're around where we are. And he's even baffled. He's not a truther and doesn't believe in any of this stuff. So he's not going to buy into directed weapons from outer space. Okay. He's in his 90s. I'm not going to convince him about that. But a lot of people are convinced that that's what's been going on all in the West here in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. We do know many of these, campaigns like global warming and climate change. We know it's a hoax. Yeah. That's when I realized Donald Trump was against the deep state, years ago in the beginning of his first term, when he said, it's a hoax. And I heard it on the radio, and the mainstream media were backlashing against him.
Oh, yeah.
Making him sound dangerous. And I just thought, nope, he is against the deep state. But how did he get him to be the president? And then the more research I'd done, the more I realized what's been happening and going on,
A really big, they must have really worked hard in the background to get him in. That must have been, and then of course there could have been some big help from the universal powers that be, right? I really think it was destined that he got in. Everything was against it, and he still did. So as far as I'm concerned, the universe is going to also help us here in the end of this spiritual war. I really believe it's coming.
Absolutely. So let's now go into, Nasara and, the debt forgiveness and things like that. So, when the RV is going to happen. So I'm going to just say this so the viewers understand what we mean by RV. No, we don't mean recreational vehicle. We're talking about the revaluation of currencies.
Yeah.
Many currencies around the world have currency manipulators by the Fed, which makes their currencies significantly very weak, much weaker than the dollar. And when they're lifted and the Fed is destroyed, those currencies will then go one for one when we go back to the gold standard, and we'll all be on level playing field so we can compete fairly. Now, when this happens, do you think that that would happen at the same time as their debt forgiveness? Or do you think it would happen separately? Or do you think the debt forgiveness will come in first and then the currency revaluations would happen at a later date? And if at a later date, do you think that it would be months or years in difference?
Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so the first card I got is the Emperor, and the Emperor has been coming up as my good government card. Now, we know that most governments right now are not good. We've discovered. Okay, almost all of them are not good. But I would think this would be Mr. T in the white hats type of thing. And I've got him every time really closely tied to the whole RV and debt forgiveness. It seems to be a project that he's absolutely keen on. So it's already started. So things have already, because that's an ace. Aces say something's really new and exciting and already started. So that's an ongoing thing. And the whole idea behind it is to get everybody equal. This is the 10 of Pentacles, which is about abundance. And this is a large abundance card. So I'm thinking when you talk about RV, the whole idea behind it is that some fairness comes into the world, because financially, when a country has so many resources and then their dollar is worth like portions of pennies on the dollar to everybody else's, like that sounds like that's been manipulated over a long period of time. So their resources can be pillaged. I mean, just think about it economically. How did that happen? How did that happen that their resources are worthless practically, and we can go there and, it just leaves them open to be taken advantage of. You know what I mean? So it sounds to me like obviously a deep state or a dark cult sort of operation, or a combination of both. Okay, so we've got the 10. So the 10, so this has already happened. So the money reset has already happened. And honestly, I'm getting that it's literally going to happen in the fall. Between now and the fall, we're going to have that RV where everything's, and it might take time to get all of them on board. Somehow I feel like there's probably little pockets that might take time to get on board, but I feel like for the most part, this isn't going to take years. I think we're looking at by fall, we got an equal playing field for the most part, which I think would be talking about the RV there, right? And there's a lot of celebration here. So celebration by October. So I'm thinking it's all gone down between now and then. And it does seem to be happening already, Nicholas, because honestly, I've been getting so many people writing to me. And every day I know if you're watching RV situation, there's always this big, any minute it's going to happen and everybody gets ready, right? But I feel like actually they could be expecting it any minute, and it could just be one of those situations where they're literally just juggling all of these things. So it's kind of an intense situation. I don't know if that answered the question, but
absolutely. I mean, do you think that it would happen under a Biden administration, or do you think that things are happening behind the scenes, and then when Trump returns, then it will be activated so that he can get the credit to say, he's put everything in place, and then the world starts following Trump?
Well, that sure would make sense, because I'm expecting him really soon. So that looks like the plan. So this was the first card pulled. Okay. And this is looking at something from a really positive perspective. And then the Fool. So that's the plan. So I feel like they could shift the plan depending on, because, these kind of situations are like, moving targets kind of thing. Okay, so I think they could, and I think they've had a lot of stop and starts around this. So I think if something goes wrong and they can't get him seated exactly when they want. I think it'll be plan B, which is it goes ahead anyway, because it's already honestly happening. So that's what I get with this card in the middle. They want this to happen in the next 4. That could be weeks, that could be days, and or the longest you could go with this is months. But they want this to happen. So this is not going to take years. That's not what I get anyway. They want this to happen. Yeah, for the world. This is for the world, not just one place, by the way. So anybody who's watching from all over the world, this is a happening in the shadows. Like you were saying, is this happening out in the open? Is this happening? No, it's the shadow governments in every country. I believe we're the deep state, and that's been flipped. Mr. T and the White Hats. Okay, I know it's a corny name, but that's what I'll refer to them as.
Absolutely.
They literally flipped all the governments, or a large number of them, maybe not every one of them. And if you watch that show where they all capitulated, so it's called The Timeline. You know what I'm talking about?
I saw that, yeah.
Amazing, right? So they all capitulated, or a lot of them, the main ones that we needed to. Okay, all of that really happened. So in the background, these people have been puppeted, which kind of explains the absolute draconian and ridiculous lockdowns that have been going on in certain places like Australia. They had a whole 5 people supposedly tested positive, and one of them was actually ill. One person. And we don't know if that person was actually ill with the dreaded illness or not. Okay, what really were they ill with? Because it's been so made up. The whole thing's just a huge scam as far as I'm concerned. And just a big made up thing about a new flu strain that was created, a bioweapon. My goodness, right? So they got one person, and there's millions and millions and millions of people in that country, and they lock the whole place down again. Does that even make sense? That doesn't make sense.
No. So what do you think is going to come first? Do you think the debt forgiveness will come first, or do you think the revaluation of the currencies will come first?
It feels like the debt forgiveness is what they're working on right now. And reevaluation's a close second, which may be why it puts it closer to August, September kind of thing.
Yeah. And do you think that when the currency revaluations not the currency revaluations, that the debt forgiveness, do you think that would happen all at once, or would it happen country by country, or globally all at once? What do you think?
I feel like they're already doing it in the little pockets, and they're working with all of these various different banks that have been fraudulent. So this feels like it'll be a little batch over here, a little batch over. That card's like a strategy card. So I don't think it's going to be all at once. And I feel like they're doing it like that because they don't want to cause mass hysteria, whether
Makes
it's
sense.
Everybody's freaking out because theirs isn't happening quick enough, or whether it's because everybody's so happy and they're hysterically spending a bunch of money. I don't know what, right? But they don't want to cause mass hysteria. And they've been doing this, they being, I think, this shadow government that's the good guy government all over the world, okay? They've been doing this with everything. As I'm watching with the cards and as things unfold, it looks like they've been literally seeping in, just like the dark cult deep state seeped into everything and every operating system over thousands of years. If you look, they literally, starting with, and maybe it was even started before that, with the banking families, literally taking control of the whole world's financial systems. Okay. So that's kind of, you could trace it back to, that was the obvious start of when we were incredibly manipulated, at least financially. So we're talking about finances now. I believe now the other things happen where they've been creeping into everything and switching everything just quietly in the background.
So, there's people out there that have mortgages and they've been paying their mortgages every month, and they must have a couple of 100,000 in debt by the bank, who of course are fraudulent. Are they going to wake up sometime very soon and find that it's all being cleared out, and they're going to think, well, where is this debt disappeared?
Okay, so certain mortgage companies and certain banks are going to have to forgive the debt, because it will all depend, and they're duking it out right now to figure out who's been illegal and who's not. So there's an illegal way to acquire debt. And we wouldn't even know that because we just sign, and we don't read the small print. A lot of us, some people do, but most people don't. And they they want to buy a house. So, they're just going along with it, right? We didn't even know that we've been totally hosed, excuse the term, the whole time, like in our taxes, in our, especially mortgages, apparently, and credit card debts, incredibly fraudulent, apparently. And then, of course, charging students the amount of debt they've been charging. I don't know what happens in the UK, but in North America, it's just unbelievable how they literally pillage students. And they're just trying to trying to learn and get ahead. And they end up 20 years later, they're still paying off their student loans. It's absurd. Okay, so there's so much. So it's saying they're duking it out who's been fraudulent and who hasn't. So there's certain rules around it. So I feel like in the background, these banks are atoning. And that's maybe why some of them are writing to people and saying, okay, fraud is why. Like I literally got, this person was from Ontario recently, which I thought was interesting. They said they recently had a letter from their bank that said their debt was forgiven. I forget how much it was, but thousands of dollars. And it was forgiven because the bank, due to fraud, but they were very elusive. They didn't say somebody was fraudulent towards this person's bank account. No, they didn't say that. They literally just said due to fraud. So what does that mean? Maybe they have to admit that they've been fraudulent, and that was just a sneaky way to do it without taking responsibility or tippy-toeing around it. I don't know, but it feels like certain banks are going to have to atone. So Juan O'Savin said this too. Some debt is legal. Some debt that we, incur, or I think that's the word. Some of it's legal and a whole lot of it isn't. So that's what I think that gets pieced through. And that's why it's going to take time. And, this bank does it and that bank does it as they get processed. I don't think anything can just sweep across the whole world and just happen overnight. And that's what we've been shown, that we'd like it to happen like that. But I don't think any of this big projects happened like that. It's all been seeping in all of these places. And then pretty soon, the amount will be overwhelming. That's just how I think they're doing it.
The way I see it is, if all the governments around the world are borrowing money from the Federal Reserve Bank, which is the only way to borrow money, from fiat currency, which was created by the Rothschild, who are illegal, which was the root of the monetary system, everything after that should be illegal. That's the way I see it. If it's backed by thin air and it's not backed by gold, or, everything should be illegal. I mean, do you think that all the top high street banks are illegal? Like Barclays, for an example.
Yeah.
Or HSBC.
Okay, so looking at this, that's true. But the reason they're doing it slower and piecework is they think it'll cause mass hysteria. So if maybe they're just going to take them down one at a time. Over here, like we know that Canadian bank went down, and Simon Parks alerted everybody to it. And then, of course, powers that be all denied it. But then it came out later that it was absolutely true, that story. And another bank quietly overnight bought it up. Another bank that was more connected to the new gold-backed system. So these things they're covering their tracks as best as possible. And it's because they don't want this to happen. Whereas the total collapse of the system overnight would, if you think about it, a whole lot of sleepers would be in absolute hysteria. So now they have no idea that these guys are deep state, dark cultures. They have no idea about what's been happening with the children in the dumps. Can you imagine what they're going to think? They're going to think the banks are stealing their money.
I'm assuming that if you have money in there, then it will just be converted to, it will just be worth what the gold standard would be worth. But then I thought that if it's debt and it's minus, it should just fall at zero. So it's like a reset. So you don't owe anything because it's been fraudulent. Okay.
So that looks like something they're trying to achieve with the Six of Cups. So that's something they're trying. But I have a feeling it's going to be a little more complicated than that. I got a feeling it's going to be a little more complicated. I can't explain what I'm getting here, but I said, well, what percentage you got about 70% of the picture, but there's some kind of details going on in the background that feel like they're going to need special attention. So it could create it not to happen quite that smooth that you're talking about. But you got the right idea though, with 70%. That's really good.
So going forward, if Donald Trump does own the Federal Reserve, as our Alexa says, why are we still paying income tax, and when will it be completely abolished? And when it is, will people receive back their income tax that they've paid illegally as compensation?
Yeah, and never mind that. What about how they've been selling our birth certificates?
That's another rabbit hole.
Oh my goodness. That's absurd. No. Okay. So that's going to take a long time to sort out. So this is the one that could take time, sorting out sort of how much money was stolen from us, because it's unbelievably a lot. This is the strength card, and this is unbelievably, we've been pillaged, our whole life pillaged. Okay, so this is around, and the Wheel of Fortune. So things have really flipped. This is in the past. So you better believe governments are on their ass. Okay, and then everything's been flipped, and they've been called to justice. So there's a whole lot of legal stuff to sort through around income tax and governing. Who's taking what and what it's being used for. Think about it. You wouldn't want everything to stop. So I don't know how much of our actual income tax actually goes to taking care of infrastructure. Probably very little if you think about it, right? But I think they're going to have to piece through, what needs to stay in place financially with governments and what doesn't. So there's a lot of organization there. There's a lot. Okay. But we're going to see some of it for sure. Maybe not all of it. I don't think they could ever pay us back all of it. We wouldn't even know what to do with that amount of money. That's how much it is probably. But this card says we're going to get some of it, and we're going to get a way better world. We're going to get away. So they're going to find ways to compensate. So think about this. The universe always pays us back. So I've felt my whole life, so this is just a personal feeling, but I even used to tell people this, that the government owes me, and this is kind of funny, but I feel like I was burned at the stake as a witch in other lifetimes when really I was a healer, but they called me a witch. So I've been hunted and haunted. I was also in the tunnels. I've had flashbacks of that. And if you look at my birth chart, I was probably pillaged by those horrible things that happen in the tunnels. I was probably one of those kids. Okay. So my Scorpio moon tells me that. Mm-hmm. So it's imprisonment, sexual abuse, stuff like that. But that's in past lives. This lifetime, none of that's happened. Thank goodness. Wonderful and gorgeous, loving parents, not very sort of forward-thinking parents, but really loving. So really safe and loving lifetime, this lifetime. But my whole life the government owes me this lifetime because they've pillaged me in past. And I feel like that was an unconscious knowing to this was going on. I couldn't put words to it, but I would feel that. And I made a point of doing my taxes accordingly.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like we're all going to be doing that going in the future. I feel like there's going to be ways that even if some governments still try to get your taxes, there's all kinds of information out there where you can absolutely contest it, because everybody knows now it's been illegal, or a whole lot of us do. And there's all kinds of things, if you go online, ways that you can speak to them, because they use words. They say, do you understand? So do you stand under me? And you just say, no, I don't understand. And who's this person? Your name is all in capital letters. That's a corporation. I'm a sovereign being. There's all of these ways. I feel like floods of people are going to, even if they try to keep going on with taxes, floods of people are it's going to become common knowledge. That's what I think is going to happen. So it might not happen in the sweeping way we'd like it to, but I feel like information's leaked out enough. That's going to multiply and multiply, right? That whole tipping point's going to happen with information. It's already happening. And people are just going to stand up and say, no. We've been pillaged. You lied about the whole pandemic. Like, so many things are coming out. You tried to mass murder us with the jabs, like all of these things that are being exposed. Okay, there's nowhere to hide. There was a guy in New York, I think he was from New Jersey. He was like the governor of New Jersey, I believe. And he was with his wife. He was going to a Bruce Springsteen concert, which is really interesting because that must have been a clone, because Bruce Springsteen's been rounded up and dealt with. Okay, he's a huge dark culture. Ashley and I did a deep dive on him. He's totally been signaling dark cult stuff for years. His whole career, he was put in place by the dark cult. But anyway, so that was interesting that they were going to one of his concerts, and people were yelling really insightful things at him, let's just say, and calling him out. And that's starting to happen. Like, I believe these people, just like Q said, they're not going to be able to go anywhere in public because everyone's, and a lot of people were yelling at them. It was like a whole street of people were truthers. Like, there's a lot more of us than we think there is. They're everywhere.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
I'm sure about that. And the mainstream media are just trying to make us look as if we're the minority and we're crazy.
Yeah, they've been doing that. Like, that's getting old, though. That's almost silly at this point.
It's outdated now. It's becoming old fashioned.
Yeah.
So how fast do you think, when you say that the income tax is complicated and it's going to take a bit long, for us, for it to be abolished, how long? When you say long, I mean, do you think it could take more than 1 year?
Within the year. And depending on how you manage it personally, I feel like how comfortable you are, like to just say no, stand up and say, no, this is an illegal system. I'm not going along with this. None of this is legal. And you've been pillaging us for years. Like, there's all kinds of ways you could do it. You can't be afraid, though. So I feel like if a whole lot of people just start saying no and just don't do it, even if they come after you, I feel like that would be the trick. And I'm feeling like this whole situation is teaching humans to stand up for their rights and not be sort of lorded over by this very few and very corrupt few. And that's part of the lesson, is we actually have to do some work in saying no. I'm absolutely doing that this year.
Absolutely.
I'm like, okay, catch you guys later. Never going to talk to you guys again, and do whatever, because I'm already with all of the double speak, going to call them out on all their double speak. I'm not consenting to any of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And we should all stand up, like, as a sovereign being and defend ourselves. Absolutely. Yeah. So how about Trump's return? When do you think that could happen? Do you think we're close?
Yeah, I so do.
I know everyone wants to know this cheesy question.
Let's have a look. I think they really want it to be close too. He's been gearing up. If you just listen to him, he's ready to step.
I mean, what's confusing is that Mike Lindell says August, and then Trump turns around and says, "Go on, what are you going to say?"
This is a big victory so they're gauging everything. So this is the good sort of Trump card. So and this is the victory card. They're gauging everything because they wanted him to step in a victory. They don't want him to step in and look like a Banana Republic ruler or somebody who's sort of, they want it to look like everyone just to be so happy to see him. That's the whole campaign and movie has been, make the Dems really show their true colors, make everybody all over the world show their true colors so these guys can step up in victory. That's what they're trying to do, because they don't want people to reject what they're doing. They want us to be okay with it. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think they keep gauging. Is this going to be received the way we think it is? Okay, so let's keep looking. And that's why there's been several planned times that they had to abort mission, right? They had to step away from, which would explain a lot of truthers getting certain dates and then it doesn't show up. I mean, this is a moving target, like's been said a lot. Okay, so they wanted it to be sooner. So temporary step backs. Fives are always temporary. The good news is it's not a major arcana. So this is very temporary. It's just they're gauging, they want this response when he steps up. Okay, so 4 to 6 with this card. They're so close to it here. It could be days 6, it could be week 6. Let's hope it's days. If it's weeks, what does that put us at? Is that the August date, maybe?
It could be the August date, but this is what I'm getting. I'm hearing Mike Lindell saying August, and then we have Trump saying that he'll be back sooner than we think. And then Trump says the year 2022 is going to be a very big year, a very good year. He keeps saying, you see what's going to happen in 22. So we're confused. Is it 22 or is it August?
No, it's not the year 22. He'll be there before that. Oh, I think it's August. That's my August card.
Right.
And the year 22 came up as the 3 of Swords. I think that'll be too late. I think they're just saying that to confuse the bad guys or just be confusing somehow.
What is confusing me?
No, I think it's August. See this card here? This is secretively, there's something already planned in the next, I would say, month with that card.
Right.
So if we've got, but we're in July, so that makes it August.
Right. I see. Yeah. Right. So it could be to confuse the deep state. So you could be right that he could be back. Maybe the year 22 will still be a very good year, like he says, in respect to what he will be doing once he's back.
Yeah, I pulled a card for the year. I think that we're fully in a lot of the things we've been talking about are fully functioning by then. So it does take time to switch over a money system. It takes time. It's been taking time. Maybe everything's really full steam ahead by then. Maybe that's why he's using that.
Right. Right. Well, Janine, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on again. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the listeners before we finish?
Let's see what the cards want to say.
Let's do that. I like that.
Wow. Incredible. Okay, so there's a great victory just around the corner. So the universe wants to say we're 70% to literally celebrating in the streets, which will be so amazing.
Very soon.
Yeah, it's been really, really, there's all kinds of things going on that we don't know about. So trust in your intuitive energy, because I know even when you speak, Nicholas, I can feel that you intuitively connect with all the things going on. There's not maybe literal proof, but there's so much unconscious knowing going on. That's what this card talks about. There's all of these things going on under the surface, and they're just creeping up over here and creeping up. So much information coming out. Try not to get discouraged. This is not the time you're in the final throwdown. You got to just stay up with your energy, intention, and visualize in a positive way. Don't get all down, because what we speak and think really helps things happen. So if everybody directs this is what our gift is as humans. We actually create our destiny, and we can speed things up and slow them down. I've seen it happen with my clients.
Absolutely.
So if we all stay visualizing the way you're visualizing things coming even sooner, that's actually really good. So never mind what this truther says or that truther. Visualize how you feel intuitively it could be for you, and stay with that until it actually manifests. That's your best bet.
Absolutely, yeah, because we're all connected and it makes difference. Consciousness, we're powerful beings and we can manifest. Yeah. Well, Janine, thank you very, very much. It's been a great pleasure, and God bless you, and we'll speak again very soon.
Awesome.
Take care. Bye-bye. God bless.
Bye, Nicholas.